I think DC comics are better than Marvel. Full stop. And to understand why, we gotta go to the beginning. Yeah, I just want to talk about, the entire timeline of DC as a entity and how they tend to do stuff. DC was the first superhero comics. Like, there were other comics, but DC was the first to ever do it. And they started it around about the Great Depression, and the first hero they ever created was Superman. Well, you could probably guess why, because Superman is larger than life and, isn't burdened by any of our norming problems, and especially way back when, where they were at the cusp of World War II and they just got rocked with the Great Depression. Shit was hitting the fan and it was hitting it hard. And so DC saw the opportunity and created a character that, well, held up the American ideals and was a symbol for hope. And that's, the entire story of Superman in a nutshell. He's the symbol of hope. And they started from there and then slowly added their mainline characters. They went from Superman, then eventually to Batman, then added Green Lantern, other characters like this, all the way up till The Flash. And, well, The Flash marked a turning point. It marked the end of the Silver Age of DC Comics. And DC at this time was very fast and loose with its continuity. It didn't really care about it. And it was a bit lighter in tone because it was being shafted by the Comics Code Authority. At that time, people were horrified to know that comic books were talking about real problems. No! For the love of humanity! No! Real world problems! Oh God, no! I don't want to think about them. No! And then, because this panic, they started censoring themselves. This wasn't, a government organization. It was an inside organization, basically. They did this to themselves. That's why, decent chunk of comics at this time were very light and didn't deal with truly serious topics as later comics do. But this all ended with Marvel as they published a piece about drug addiction. It was about one of them, Oswald, is a drug addict, in the series. And the guys who made this were like, we gotta talk about this. This shit is important. And they did. And as soon as this comic was released and actually a load of money, other comics realized, hey, we want that. Weren't under the pressure of the Comics Code Authority anymore and said, F you. And then started talking about shit that actually matters, serious stuff. They put their big boy britches on. And this marks a turn in the timeline of, DC. Because DC before this was very fast and loose with everything. To move on from their past, they decided to make the characters, the universe, all of that that got them to the point that they were a separate universe, Earth 2. And then they made the new timeline that was currently going on, Earth 1. So, in a sense, they could have their cake and eat it. And so they did. And this isn't as, edgy as the modern times, but it's darker in general. And another thing that I really like about DC is a bit out of, chronological order. But a few of these comics have a very, very interesting art style. For example, there's Kingdom Come, which is a pretty cool story because it's about what if you were in this, universe and superheroes were just another form of job. Like they were like police officers, but super. and you were living your life in this world. And so, to convey this, it has a very realistic art style. Like, the amount of work the guy behind it was doing is insane. This man was cracked. Mad respect. Like, seriously, this it's. I just don't have the words. Like, for God's sake, how much work would even one of these panels, not even one of these panels, one of these images would take? You, man, it's so much work. And to convey their point across, they did the work, they made it work. And this also, segments in the point that DC as a collective, their story have this, in a sense, a format where their characters, these superhumans, these basically gods, act human. They want to be human. They look deeper, beneath what makes them super. Look at what makes them human. And that's what I find interesting. For the most part, I'm, big DC stan. This is one of the reasons I like them. It's because most of the stories in general, big in general, talk about what makes humans humans, what is human, what makes these non-existent beings like you and I. And that's what I find fun about them. Mainly, the entire premise of this video is encompassed by this one key concept, as compared to Marvel, which reverses this. It talks about what makes a human super, what makes a human a hero. And I think that too is a pretty interesting concept. It's very interesting to me. That's why, I have fascination and very deep interest in comics of all types. That's why I made that webtoons video. And maybe I'm going to talk about some manga in the future, because I read one or two of these and I really am interested in reading more of them. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons I like DC. Another example of how good their art is a series that I think it's called Arkham Asylum. If Kingdom Come is turbo realistic, this is the exact opposite. This is turbo abstract. Like, it looks like an acid trip. Every single character is shown in a very abstract light. Most interesting character in this, the Joker, has a very interesting way that he's represented. Like, he has no outline. You can't tell where the Joker ends and the world begins. And from what I've researched, that's because, it's supposed to critique how the Batman works, how Batman does things. As in, that Batman, it's my interpretation that it's supposed to show that Batman is, haunted by the Joker, and to him the entire world is the Joker. And that's my very basic, surface level interpretation. Like, I could not tell you what I'm looking at. This shit looks so weird. Like, it's so hard. Actually, I think I should give an epilepsy warning because I think this acid trip of a comic book deserves one. And these are the main highlights of its art. It's good. I really like it. And the stories are also very good because it focus on the smaller stuff. And now let's briefly return to the continuity without spoiling anything. The DC moves around, has its problems, and eventually they have too many universes. They're like, this is too much, we gotta deal with this. And then Crisis on Infinite Earth happens, which is pretty good. Honestly, I really like it. The part that I don't like is that the Anti-Monitor, he just pops up, he gets up way too many times. Like, it's not that deep. Just don't. Just give up, bro. You can't do it. Just stop making a fool out of you. Stop wasting my time. That's the main point that I don't like. And then, everything basically returns to normal. Few characters along the way get erased from the timeline. Spoiler alert. In this series, by the end, our original Superman, he gets really shafted. And to make sure that the character brought DC to where it is gets a happy ending, they made it so that the original Superman, along with the original universe, along with the original Lois, are in a pocket dimension outside of time and are living in paradise. They made him his own heaven. And I think that that's pretty appropriate because, this character is so significant. He deserves this ending. And, another series that I really like was the DC Zombies. I really liked it. I also liked the Wayne Family Adventures. I also liked the Green Lantern, White Lantern arc. I liked that. I found it a bit interesting. Then the timeline starts getting a bit too convoluted for DC's taste, and they want a redo of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and so they do Flashpoint. It's pretty impressive over the course of, almost, I want to say 80, 90 years ish. All of DC only went through 2 soft reboots, which is pretty impressive, honestly. I love DC as comics, as far as the comics go, and actually the animated universe, it's pretty good there. But the actual live action movies, they got really shafted, and I think that's a damn shame because to me, DC has a special place in my heart. I spent a lot of time just watching Batman and Superman and these characters, and honestly, I like them way more than Marvel characters in general because I think they were always good characters and they had good writers. They still have good writers, and these writers do a good job, and that's why I think these stories still work and land in people's heart and make place with them. Like, tell me the last good DC movie you watched. It's probably gonna be Superman, actually. But outside of that, it's gonna go way back. And even after that much shit, a decent chunk of you still like the comics. I assume, I don't know, I don't know shit. But even after years of shitty movies, these characters still have a place in my heart, and I value this very much. And so I wanted to yap about it and make these billion-dollar companies a few more clams in the process, I guess. So, long story short, I like DC in general. It's been certified 10 out of 10, would recommend. Yeah, that's about it. I just want to yap about that. Bye.